This is Matador News, and these are today's headlines. High winds and fire warnings are still in effect in Southern California. Also, in a New Jersey neighborhood, a plane crash sets 2 homes on fire. And the 49ers remain undefeated as the NFL goes into Week 9.
Hello and welcome to Matador News. I'm Kaelyn Ryan.
And I'm Sofia Gutierrez.
It is now a day after the Getti Fire erupted along the 405 freeway near the Getti Center. Firefighters remain on standby to prevent the blaze from growing stronger due to the major Santa Ana winds. Firefighters are working tirelessly to spray homes in the Brentwood area and others to put out existing embers. About 5 Brentwood homes have been destroyed and thousands threatened. Fire officials are warning a Santa Ana wind is coming through the Southland tonight. Forecasters say this level of wind may be the strongest this season has ever seen. Mayor Eric Garcetti says the fire slightly increased in size to 656 acres and remained at 5% containment. Los Angeles Fire Department Chief Ralph Terrazas says the main objective is to increase containment as much as possible.
A small plane crashes in a residential neighborhood in New Jersey this morning. No deaths have been reported as of now, but the pilot is missing. Neighbors say they were terrified when they heard a big sound nearby.
Completely engulfed. Bright orange flames and black smoke. Just completely. That was that whole scene over there.
The Federal Aviation Administration says the Cessna 414 crashed in a home in Woodbridge Township this morning. The small plane struck one home and then sparked 2 structures. Firefighters reported to the scene as fast as they could, but it's not clear how many people were on the plane
and whether overcast, they were hit. It's foggy. Who knows what it might have been. I just want to thank the emergency workers in Woodbridge Township, the police, the fire, the first aids. They came out en masse to make sure everybody was safe. And like I said, there are no civilian casualties.
There is still an ongoing investigation.
Today, President Trump tweeted that the likely replacement to ISIS leader Abu Bakr al-Baghdadi has been determined by U.S. troops. This comes days after Baghdadi, one of the most wanted terrorists in the world, and the leader of ISIS, was killed this past Saturday. On Sunday morning, President Trump announced Baghdadi was killed after a U.S. military raid in northwest Syria. Trump said a compound where they believe Baghdadi lived was under surveillance for a couple of weeks. Baghdadi was reportedly chased to the end of a dead-end tunnel by U.S. military dogs. U.S. Secretary of Defense Mark Esper says Baghdadi took his own life.
We tried to call him out and ask him to surrender himself. He refused. He went down into a subterranean area, and in the process of trying to get him out, he detonated a suicide vest, we believe, and killed himself.
Special forces reported they captured 2 ISIS fighters and took 11 children into custody during the operation. One witness says people were shouting for help during the raid.
Of course I didn't go out of the house. 30 minutes later, I heard people calling for help next to the house. A Volkswagen car was struck. It had 2 people in it. These 2 people were shouting to get help by rescuers.
2 American Special Forces members were slightly wounded. President Trump also tweeted out a photo of a dog who was seriously injured while pursuing Baghdadi.
The National Security Council's top Ukraine expert, Army Lieutenant Colonel Alexander Vindman, is testifying at the Capitol this afternoon. Vindman plans to tell investigators that he twice reported his concerns to a superior about President Trump's phone call with Ukraine's president in July. In his statement, Vindman wrote how he felt Trump's efforts to press Ukraine into investigating the Bidens were inappropriate. He also said it was his sacred duty and honor to advance and defend our country, irrespective of party of politics. Vindman's testimony comes just days before the House votes to formalize the procedures of the impeachment inquiry on Thursday.
And now let's hear from Matador News reporter Esteban Reynoso with students' reaction to the impeachment.
Thank you, Kaelyn. As we heard, the impeachment inquiry inches closer to reality as House Speaker Nancy Pelosi announces the House will vote formally for the first time on a resolution to set the parameters for the process of impeaching President Trump. We asked CSUN students about how they feel if the president were to be impeached.
I don't care if you voted for Trump or if you didn't, if you're Republican, Democrat, whatever, I think that there's a basis of human rights that needs to be honored and respected. And I don't think President Trump's the best person to show his respect towards all people groups. And I just hope that this kind of shows that, like, that's not okay. Here in America, we're supposed to be inclusive, and frankly, as a country, we're not.
I feel it needs to happen because he's not doing much action here in the U.S. He's concerned too much about, foreign policies that us Americans, don't want. We more want climate justice, and he doesn't even recognize that climate change is a thing. And a lot of our candidates are here to make action here in the U.S., and that's what we need.
If Trump does get impeached, that would mean that we would have to rely on Mike Pence, and I wouldn't say that he's any much better. And I feel like the whole government's really a mess right now. Trump is basically ruining a lot of things. The Democrats don't seem to be pulling their own way. They don't seem to be, working together. All of them seem to be just all over the place, so I wouldn't say there's no clear option to go right now. Everything just seems to be really messed up.
We just need action to happen, and Trump isn't doing that.
The House will vote whether or not to go forward with the inquiry on Thursday. Now let's go back to Sofia in the studio.
Thanks, Esteban. Protests in Lebanon have led to the resignation of Prime Minister Saad Hariri. Hariri says he has to resign because the protests have gone out of hand. Protesters have staged a nationwide protest for nearly 2 weeks, forcing schools and banks to close. The country saw rapid economic deterioration in the recent months. The three-time prime minister led a national unity government that included some of his political adversaries. And in Iraq, protesters continue clashing with police as anti-government protests continue. Reports say up to 18 people were killed by security forces, although local officials denied anyone was killed. More than 220 people have died across the country since the demonstrations. Citizens are angry about corruption, unemployment, and poor public services.
And protests are continuing in South America. Bolivia is facing a second round of voting surrounding allegations of rigging. Many people have questioned the fairness of the presidential elections held last week. Bolivia's trade partners, like Brazil, said they would not recognize Evo Morales' victory until an Organization of American States audit is complete. And in Chile, President Sebastián Pinera faces new protests after replacing 8 cabinet members. The protests there began in early October in response to the 4% rise in subway fares. School students launched a fare dodging campaign. As the campaign grew violent, incidents forced transport authorities to close stations.
Boeing CEO Dennis Muilenburg is testifying before the Senate Commerce Committee today, and tomorrow he'll meet with the House committee addressing transportation issues. This would mean his first testimony since 2 737 MAX crashes killed 346 people. The accidents were caused by a faulty automated system, MCAS, that Boeing installed on the planes.
Is that we made some mistakes. There are some things we can improve. One of them is this idea of going to a dual sensor feed instead of single, as well as limiting MCAS to a single action or activation during a flight. Those are improvements that we've identified. We take responsibility for that. We feel responsible for our airplanes, and we know that there are some fixes that we need to make. We own that.
The senators are questioning Muilenburg and Chief Engineer John Hamilton about MCAS, trying to figure out how the plane was initially certified and safe to fly.
General Motors Company is looking to put the $2.9 billion 6-week strike behind them as they swing back into production. General Motors' strike began September 15th when 48,000 United Automobile workers from 50 plants walked out. During the Great Recession, unionized automotive workers had accepted concessions to allow GM and other companies to recover. GM has since then received a huge tax break and returned to profitability. but workers' compensation has remained stagnant. Demands from workers include increased job security, health care benefits, better pay, and a gateway for temporary workers to become permanent. The automaker said today that the walkout by unionized workers in the U.S. plants stopped free cash flow and forced it to lower its 2019 earnings, forecast by $2 a share. Third quarter results beat the average estimate, and GM shares saw the biggest increase since June. The company is counting on a high demand for its new Chevrolet Silverado and GM Sierra pickups, which are their big moneymakers. Now let's toss to Brittany Smith on the latest in business.
Thank you, Kaelyn. Jeff Bezos might lose his position as the richest man in the world. Amazon loses out, and Microsoft wins on a big contract called Getti with the Department of Defense to provide cloud storage of sensitive military data and tech. The deal could bring Microsoft $10 billion over the next 10 years. The decision was made on Friday and comes after controversy and public criticism of Amazon from President Trump. Amazon calls themselves the clear leader in cloud computing, and the decision came as a surprise to the company. Online holiday spending is expected to break records this year. Researchers expect digital spending during November and December to generate $143.7 billion. That's 14% higher than last year. This year brings the shortest holiday season possible because Thanksgiving comes later than usual, so retailers might be offering deals early this year. Walmart has already brought out some deals online, and Target CEO Brian Cornell says every day is going to count. Chinese e-commerce giant Alibaba will hold their 11/11 Global Shopping Festival on November 11th, with crazy deals that could spark sales among U.S. retailers. Black Friday and Cyber Monday are great days to shop, but experts say December 27th may be the best day to buy electronics, when retailers typically take 27% off. Let's hear from Amari Martin with the top health stories of today.
Thanks, Brittany. Alprazolam, a generic form of Xanax, has voluntarily been recalled nationwide for what its producer, Mylan Pharmaceuticals, says is a potential presence of foreign substance. The manufacturing company says the recall is for alprazolam's 0.5 milligram tablets that were distributed this last July and August in 500-count bottles. Their notice further states the affected drug's lot number. The number is 8082708 and has a September 2020 expiration date. Pharmacists say they have not received reports of advised events related to this specific batch. Consumers with questions about the recall on this anti-anxiety drug should call Mylan Pharmaceuticals. 4 out of 10 millennials have at least 2 tattoos, but have they ever stopped to think how dangerous they can really be? According to Dr. Linda Katz, the director of the Food and Drug Administration's Office of Cosmetics and Colors, tattoo ink contains everything from pigments used in printer tone to pigments used in car paint. Tattoos have been known to cause allergic reactions such as hive and blisters. If these aren't treated right away, they can cause racing hearts, dizziness, and stomach aches. The FDA considers tattoos to be cosmetic, so it doesn't regulate the industry. Dermatologists say tattoos should be vibrant with color and completely held within 4 months. Now let's hear from Matador News reporter Daniel Ramirez about National Cat Day.
Thanks, Amari. A healthy rivalry can play an important role in a person's life. From Barcelona versus Real Madrid, or who has the better chicken sandwich between Popeyes and Chick-fil-A, the divide between cats and dogs is no different. As someone's pet of choice can tell you a lot about them. We asked around CSUN to see what was the preferred pet of choice, canines or felines.
I don't mind cats. They are not the friendliest of animals, I think. They're a bit of a dash of sass that I don't like to partake in. We actually do have 3 cats in my apartment. None of them are mine. But I prefer dogs. If I were to have a dog, I don't have a dog. I recently saw somebody dress their fluffy white dog as a mop, and the owner was dressed up as a caution sign.
No, I love dogs. They're more friendly, and I could take them out to the park, and it's really nice. I feel like I could do a lot more with dogs than with cats. And for Halloween, I'm going to be dressing them up. I'm still trying to figure that out.
I'm a dog person. I had dogs my entire life, and plus my grandma had like this superstition where if you had a cat, they had like 7 hairs of the devil or something like that. So that's why that's why we never had a cat before. But dogs are cool. So I used to have a husky last year, and it was a pure white husky. So what I did to him is that I dressed him as a zebra. So I got like this black mark and started going all over it. So it looked like a zebra, and then I dressed as a safari man.
I mean, it's 50-50, but I realized recently I really like cats. We have this little black one that's like maybe the size of my forearm, and just with the exception of the fact that it wakes up in the middle of the night and climbs up on me, like trying to headbutt me on my chin for me to rub him. Other than that, yeah, I like cats. I have my costume yet, so what I'm leaning towards is me being a devil and then maybe putting little demon wings on them. So we'll see how that goes though. Now that I know, I might just go and grab all 3 of them and put them on their backs and just rub their bellies and feed them little tasty catnip.
Although according to national surveys, cats are only half as popular among pet owners compared to dogs, we can't underestimate man's second best friend. Back to Brittany in the studio for more on entertainment.
Thank you. AT&T is announcing the details of its HBO Max streaming service today. It will launch in 2020, 2 years after the $85 billion AT&T deal was made with Time Warner. AT&T has made more than 170 million customers who will be receiving exclusive discounts for HBO Max. AT&T has yet to release the monthly charge for HBO Max, but expects to have over 50 million people signed up by 2025. Popular shows such as Friends, Game of Thrones, and The Big Bang Theory are expected to appear. And as the fires continue to rage through Southern California, celebrities are among those feeling the fury. LeBron James and his family had to evacuate due to the Getti Fire just hours after he led the Lakers to a win against the Charlotte Hornets. Former Governor Arnold Schwarzenegger, actor Clark Gregg, and actress Kate Beckinsale were also among those who had to evacuate. John Cena announced he would be making a $500,000 donation to first responders battling the fires.
I want Paramount to do me one favor. I want them to pick a charity. Pick a charity that aids our first responders as soon as possible. And on behalf of Playing with Fire, and out of respect to the people that I truly believe are heroes, my response will be to immediately donate $500,000 to this cause.
Although the 405 has been cleared and reopened, winds have caused the fire to increase in size, and it remains only 5% contained. Let's go back to Amari for news on sports.
Thank you. The Clippers win big against the Charlotte Hornets. Star player Kawhi Leonard scored 30 points
so great in that first
with
quarter.
7 rebounds and 6 assists.
I tell you what, you love watching these guys. You pointed out, you can't speed up.
Sixth man of the year, Lou Williams scored 23 points in the 111-96 point victory on Monday. The Clippers are getting off with a hot start, winning three of their 4 games. The Clippers are set to take on the Spurs Halloween night at the Staples Center. The NFL is now officially halfway through the season. Here are some highlights from Week 8. Drew Brees led his team to a 31-9 victory against the Cardinals after suffering a back injury in Week 2 against the Rams.
Touchdown pass.
The San Francisco 49ers are one of the 2 teams that are still undefeated following their victory against the Carolina Panthers this Sunday. Aaron Rodgers threw for over 300 yards, leading the Packers to victory against the Kansas City Chiefs in Sunday Night Football. After getting kicked in the eye, Deshaun Watson throws the winning touchdown to Darren Fells for a victory against the Oakland Raiders. The Rams go overseas to London for a victory against the Bengals. Week 9 kicks off Thursday night with the 49ers taking on the Cardinals in Arizona. Now let's go back to Sofia for the weather.
It is 63 degrees right now in Northridge. Today we will see a high of 74 degrees with clear skies with slight winds up to 3 miles per hour. Humidity of over 30% is good news for the local firefighters, but a high wind warning has been issued for the next 2 days in the LA area. The weather will cool down tomorrow before returning to the 80s for the rest of the week.
A group of Florida nurses have come up with a great idea to help the homeless and recycle at the same time. Nurses from Tampa General Hospital have started recycling sterile surgical wraps to make sleeping bags. A nurse at the hospital saw the idea on social media while RN Carly Wright emailed others in the hospital for help making the sleeping bags. Carly says response was overwhelming, and while they have already made about 100 for the homeless, they are just getting started.
Thank you for watching Matador News. I'm Sofia Gutierrez.
And I'm Kaelyn Ryan.
I'm Brittany Smith.
And I'm Amari Martin. See you next week.